I finally got to go and see The Matrix Resurrections. I was going to go on the opening night, but then the Grinch slipped into my bedroom and spat COVID into my mouth, ruining my whole Christmas. So here we are. I have to tell you, this video really hurts me to make because I'm such a huge Matrix fan. I first saw The Matrix when my brother got it as a Christmas present on VHS. For the kids amongst us, that's an ancient technology, not a sexually transmitted disease. I remember my mind being blown immediately, just with the opening scene. The iconic Trinity kick, the camera slow motion tracking. When she jumped across the roof. From that moment on, I was obsessed with The Matrix in the way that I imagine people who really enjoy Star Wars or Star Trek are obsessed. That's how much I enjoyed The Matrix. I eagerly awaited the following movies and was so pleased that the Wachowskis wanted to create so much content across multiple mediums. The Animatrix was incredible, and aside from Pokemon, basically introduced me to anime. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. It's original stories told by some of the greatest animators and directors in the anime game at the time. It's awesome. The video games were incredible, especially Enter the Matrix. Just like the first movie, Enter the Matrix blew my mind completely because it had live action scenes with characters and actors from the movie, and the plot and the missions and all the gameplay directly impacted the plot of the movie. I'd never seen anything like that before, and it made me feel connected to the story in a way that I'd never experienced. It wasn't just a cash grab. How seriously the Wachowskis, and credit to them, Warner Brothers, took that game was fucking awesome. Hell, I'm such a Matrix nerd. In preparation for Resurrections, I rewatched the entire trilogy, The Animatrix, and I watched a playthrough of Enter the Matrix. And I'm kind of embarrassed about that last one, but I did it. So it really shouldn't surprise you if I told you that just the idea of more Matrix content gave me a big, juicy semi. And that's why it pains me to say the movie stinks. It was such a disappointment. I mean, I credit the Wachowskis as being among the most original storytellers of our time, which is why I'd hoped Lana would surprise us all and make a good movie. However, they didn't. It was a huge, steaming disappointment. I was more disappointed with this movie than the time when my wife asked me, is it in yet? It stunk, and here's where I think they went wrong. And by the way, I'm going all in here, which is a coincidence because that's exactly what I said to your mum once. But this is fair warning, if you haven't seen The Matrix Resurrections yet, there's gonna be heavy spoilers from this point on in the video, so if you don't want any, stop watching now. Number one, all the meta. Being meta in movies is an incredibly hard needle to thread. It's so easy to get it wrong, and boy, does Resurrections get it wrong. If the recipe had asked for a teaspoon of meta, they just went ahead and added a whole truckload of meta. For the first third of the movie can't stop talking about itself and how great it was, showing clip after clip of the original trilogy, and even going as far as to have the main character technically work on the story for the movie we're watching. Yeah, kind of an interesting idea, yes, but in the end it just felt like a cop-out, as if they were too afraid to even try and progress the plot and risk it all by raising the bar, so they'd just be clever and smart instead. And every single time someone said bullet time, I was sick in my mouth. So that's a lot of sick, basically. Number two, jovial Morpheus. Morpheus was brought back to this movie for absolutely no reason at all. They didn't ask Lawrence Fishburne to return for whatever reason, so they should have just taken the opportunity to introduce a new character. But no, they brought Morpheus back, except this time with weird flair and panache. Not to mention, he takes the piss out of his own lines from the original movie. The whole thing was a clunky distraction. I thought Yahya Abdul-Mateen was awesome. He just should have been Morpheus' son or something, like a completely new character, not even connected to Morpheus. Number three, awful small characters. One of the things I think a lot of people enjoyed from the originals, or at least I certainly did, was how rich and developed all the small potato characters were. People like the Merovingian, those ghosts, Nairobi, all felt like they had deep backstories full of exciting adventures which made them interesting and intriguing even in the small amount of time they spent on screen. In this movie, aside from the old characters, there wasn't one new character introduced with the same level of texture and depth as from the original, so I gave zero fucks about any of them, especially, and none more so, than the main villain, the analyst. A lot of people gave the original architect shtick for being so convoluted and confusing, but ergo, vis-a-vis, that made him irrevocably and concordantly interesting to watch and try and figure out. Between the analyst's quips and the jovial Morpheus, Resurrections felt more like the MTV Movie Awards sketch than the MTV Movie Awards sketch.
Ergo! vis-a-vis, concordantly.
Number 4, terrible gimmick. In the first movie, we had things like bullet time, agents in suits, and leather arse. Lots and lots of arse in leather. In this movie, we have zombie hordes, because we've never seen that before. They swapped out something they felt they had overdone for something everyone else had overdone. So boring. Number 5, didn't know what to do with a strong woman. In the first movie, Trinity is kicking so much ass. She's a badass all the way through. When Neo tries to daddy up and put her in the back seat, she pulls his pants down and gives him a spanking there and then. It reminds him who's the captain of this ship. Later in the trilogy, she tears down a nuclear power plant in 5 minutes because Neo is going to die. She saves him multiple times throughout the trilogy. But in this movie, they kind of forgot about the Iron Fleet. Somehow they just forgot how to make Trinity a badass. And the one time they did, it was all mismatch and clunky. It came out of nowhere and was just like meh. Leads me on to my last point, number 6, there was no emotional foreplay. The first Matrix was so fucking amazing because the entire movie was teasing the conflict and increasing the risks everyone was taking until the very climax. Here was a guy that didn't believe he was the one, but Morpheus did. The Oracle tells him he's not the one, but shares the bombshell that Morpheus believes in him so much, he'll sacrifice his life to protect Neo. Those very events unfold, and when Morpheus' life is literally in Neo's hands, he steps up and risks it all to save him, which is why this scene and score is so incredible. Goosebumps every single time. And once they finally save Morpheus, Neo goes off script. There's the incredible scene when he's confronted by Agent Smith and he looks at the stairs and chooses to believe in himself instead. What annoyed me about Resurrection so much was the complete lack of foreplay whatsoever. Instead, they just randomly throw in heroic moments with heroic scores that don't match your internal emotions. The one silver lining I can give, if you're being generous, is that at least now if you rewatch the original trilogy, you can, finish it knowing that the main characters have a future and somewhat of a happy ending. That's it. That's my piece on Matrix Resurrections. I'd be interested to know what you think, if you've seen it, how you felt about it in the comments. We can chat about it. Take care.